Hi, my name is Caitlin. Welcome back to my channel. Going to college for the first time is really scary. It can be a really challenging time because it's just so overwhelming, and it's the first time in your life where you're making all these adult decisions that are going to affect your life for at least the next 4 years, if not your whole life. It's just a lot of pressure on a young person. I remember when I was applying to colleges and when I was going to colleges, I felt like there was so much weight on my shoulders. I felt really stressed, very overwhelmed, and like I didn't know what I was doing. I honestly failed at a lot of things during my first couple years of college. I almost flunked out of my classes. I didn't make any friends. I transferred schools, took a gap year. So I've essentially done it all. 10 years later, I have a totally different perspective about what I went through when I was a freshman versus now. And I honestly learned so much in my 4 years of college. There's so many different people that have many different experiences, and we all have something to share because we all have different challenges in school. Challenges inevitable in life. It's important that you learn to overcome them rather than trying to avoid them. So you're going to have your own challenges. But these were a lot of things that I've learned from the challenges that I faced when I was in college. So I think that many people have this dream of going away to a different state for school. I think that there's many great reasons to go out of state for school. Like, for example, if you've always pictured yourself living in a specific city, if there's a specific college that is really good for the degree that you want to get, you should definitely go there. If you get accepted to Harvard, I mean, like, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. There are some schools that are worth going out of state for, and it's worth going in debt for the experience. But I just feel like most colleges are not worth going out of state for. Most colleges that you go to are going to offer the same majors, the same experiences that colleges in your state are going to offer. So therefore, I just don't think that it's worth going super far away from your family and friends or paying the extra money. Think about it this way. When it's a holiday like Easter, you're going to be stuck on campus while everyone is home, and the campus is going to be a ghost town and you're unable to go home. So those holidays can be extremely lonely because if you're 3 hours away, it's going to be a 6-hour drive for them to come and get you. So those are things you want to think about before going super far away. The second thing you want to think of is the finances, which is the thing people think about the least, but it's the thing that you really should think about the most because it's going to affect your life for a very long time. So you don't want to just go to a really expensive school willy-nilly. Have a good reason to go. Like, don't just be going, because there are so many things that you can do to save money and that you honestly should do, especially now that we don't really know what's going on with the economy. And you just don't want to be put in a bad position in the future. Honestly, I think that if you do end up in a lot of debt because of college, you're going to make it through. It's not the end of the world, but you can make your life a whole lot easier if you're just a little smarter about it. For example, you can go to community college for 2 years and then transfer up to a main school, or you can go to a state school, which is a lot cheaper. You can go to a state school and then commute, which would save you a ton of money as well. So these are just all things that you should really consider and that I always tell parents to consider when they're talking about sending their kids to college for the first time. You just don't want to put yourself in a bad situation. Another thing that I wish I knew that I could do when I was 18 is take a gap year. I think that many parents don't want their kids to do this because they think that if their kid takes a gap year, they're never going to go back to school, which is really fair. When you're on the grind and you're constantly doing something, it's good to keep up that momentum, because if you slow down, sometimes it's hard to get that momentum back. But there are just some kids that just aren't ready. They're just like not. And I was one of those kids. Now, I was like academically smart and I was mature, but I just wasn't ready for the social aspect. I had severe social anxiety, and so my dad put me in a dorm room with 2 other girls that I didn't know. He was 3 hours away, and so I didn't really do well. I didn't thrive in that environment because I had severe social anxiety. And I remember these girls were like having everyone in and out of our dorm. They were having people sleep over all the time, and I'm sitting over here like super uncomfortable because I don't know any of these people. When I finally took a gap year, I remember telling my dad, and my dad was super upset with me. He was like livid, but I needed to do it, and I just trusted myself and I trusted my gut. While I was on my little gap year, I worked a lot. While I was working, I remember that there was these like really cute guys that I wanted to talk to and I wanted to be friends with. And so naturally, I pushed myself out of my comfort zone and I talked to these people, and slowly over time I got more acclimated without being in a dorm room. When I finally reapplied and went back to school, I was actually ready that time, and I did so much better in school when I took a gap year. Another thing that I decided wasn't for me while I was at college was campus living. And I think that this is like specific to only children usually because we're not used to having siblings. But when I went to college for the first time and I was living on campus, it was really overwhelming because there was people in and out of our dorms. My roommate was like a heavy snorer at that time. People were sleeping over. It was super loud and obnoxious, and just the dorm in general was like very like high energy. That's why I say it's totally plausible that dorm rooms aren't for everyone. Some people just don't do well in them. There's a lot of downsides to dorm rooms if you're not prepared to be in that kind of environment. Once I started commuting, it definitely grounded me and like centered me because I had time and space away from being in a dorm room. And I think that if you're a little bit introverted, dorm rooms can also be pretty tough. So I guess it just depends on your situation and how much you can take. Something that nobody prepared me for was the problem of having too much time. Never did anyone ever say to me, hey Caitlin, in college you're gonna have way too much time on your hands and that's gonna be a problem. Because in high school, I just think it's the busiest time of your life, quite literally. I don't think I've ever been busier since when I was in high school, because you're waking up at 6 a.m. to go to school all day, and then after that you have either sports or you have work, and then after that you have homework, and then the next day you repeat it all over again, and then the weekends you're probably trying to be with your friends. You have responsibilities at home, chores that you have to take care of, and on top of that you're probably either trying to get your driver's license or apply for schools, which is all very stressful. All of these things are so much and it just makes you super busy. So I'm sure you are dying for more time. However, in college, sometimes that can be a horrendous thing because if you have too much time, then you procrastinate and you're like, I'll do it later. Then you procrastinate again and you're like, I'll do that later. And then you procrastinate again. And then you don't do it. Also with college, because you only have class a couple times a week, sometimes your homework isn't due for a couple of weeks. So you're just not on this daily regimented routine like you once were. And I remember in the beginning realizing that my math homework wasn't due for a week. I was like, okay, I'll do it the night before. All good. I got to it the night before and I realized that it wasn't due for a week because it was a week's worth of work. That's why it's good to really break things down for yourself and also keep yourself busy, like do work, join clubs, get a job. All of these things will help you be more regimented and have a schedule so you're like, okay, I only have X amount of time to get this thing done. So I have to do it during this time. There's no other time to do it. So then you sit down and then you do it because you have no other time to do it. Whereas if you have so much free time, you kind of keep pushing things off. I think that making new friends is something everyone is concerned about because many people are not going to school with their friends and they want to know how they can make new friends. Is honestly to just join communities, whether it's a job, whether it's a club, whether it's your dorm room. You just have to find the right ones that fit for you. I remember in college I was a part of a couple different communities. Like I had my work friends, I had my school friends, and then I had my friends that I had from high school. So I had a variety of different groups and communities that I was a part of, and you just kind of have to find the ones that you want to be a part of as well. So if you want to get a job after college, you have to make sure that you're doing internships while you're in college, because nobody really cares about your classes that you're taking. So make sure that you're doing a bunch of real work experience while you're in school. You'll be much more likely to get hired after school, and once you do get hired, don't be picky. Just take the first opportunity that you get. You're not in the position to negotiate pay or to be super picky about the job that you get. Just work your way up, and that's just the way it works. When you finally get accepted to your college and you're thinking about what major you should pick, make sure you pick the right one for you. Don't get pressured into any specific thing. I remember my dad really wanting me to do something in science because he thought it would be a good job. And so he told me, Kate, you're really good at science and math. Like, you should do that. No, I wasn't. No, I was not good at science or math. So my freshman year, I got stuck with a bunch of science and math classes and I almost flunked out. So don't do that. Make sure your freshman year is going to be a little easier for you because it's going to be really stressful getting used to all the new changes, and you want to set yourself up for success, not failure. And also, please make sure you go to your orientation. I did not go to my orientation, and so therefore I did not get to pick my roommates. I was lost the first day. I didn't have an ID card. Definitely not a good idea. Just try your best to go to orientation if you can. Finally, I know that everyone is going to want to party in college. It's your first taste of freedom, and I so get that. And I think that it's good to get it out of your system. However, you really need to be safe and know your limits. Don't overdrink, don't drink and drive, don't leave your friends unattended. So many things can happen that you just don't think about when you're young. And so therefore it's just so important to just stay on alert and just be safe. And if it comes between getting in trouble and someone else's safety, please just get in trouble. It's not worth the risk. I never understood when people wouldn't say something and then people would get seriously injured or hurt because no one went and got help. So please be smart if you do ever partake in partying. Alright guys, so I know that was a lot, but that was my 10 pieces of advice before going to college. I think those are 10 things you should think about while you're considering going to college or while you are at college. Those are just good things to keep in mind. They're things that I've learned throughout my experience, and I hope that they help you. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!